Hare Krishna. Very often we read in the scriptures about great devotees who have performed extraordinary austerities. Dhruva Maharaj, for example, even as a 5-year-old boy, was living initially just on roots and berries, and then later only on dried leaves, and then later only water, and finally just on air, and later he even stopped breathing. Or we hear of other austerities performed by sages in the forest, terrible austerities which we can't even imagine doing in this age. And in this age, because all good qualities of people diminish, so it is not possible for us to do any of these austerities. Something that was commonplace in early ages now becomes a very big thing. One Nirjala Ekadashi a year, and such a big thing is made out of it, isn't it? But earlier it was something that every person used to do commonly. So Kali Yuga shows a deterioration of all good qualities. So we cannot do the kind of austerities that were done by sages in the past. And we are not speaking of thousands of years ago. We are even speaking of a few hundred years ago. The 6 Goswamis, how they lived in Vrindavan. It's impossible for us to imitate. Given this, what then is really cooperation for us? Cooperation or austerity, the austerity is to cooperate. In Kali Yuga, because it's an age of quarrel, and this means that for such a small cause, there's such a big quarrel. That is Kali Yuga. The word Kali Yuga comes from the word Kalaha, which means quarrel and hypocrisy. So sometimes even for no reason, there's such a big misunderstanding or a quarrel. And then when you actually look into the matter, you find that it was like a storm in a cup of milk. So, yeah, not tea, herbal tea. Storm in a cup of herbal tea. So, this is the age. And so our austerities here are not so much physical. Of course, we need to do the basic program that Srila Prabhupada has recommended. But really, the biggest austerity for us, for the beings of this age and in a movement like this, is to cooperate with one another. This really is the challenge. And if we just simply try that, then I think that will please the Supreme Lord very much. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the episode of the Prachetas. There were 10 brothers. And on the instructions of their father, they went to perform austerities. The idea was that once they finished performing austerities, they would return and then rule the kingdom. As it happened, fortunately for them and unfortunately for the king, they became very, very advanced in spiritual life, and they actually performed austerities under the water, and they met Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva also gave them songs to chant, and then they became pure devotees. They were blessed with the vision, with the audience of the Supreme Lord himself, and he benedicted them and said that I am pleased with all of you because of the friendly spirit that you have had with each other. He didn't specifically single out the austerity of being in the water. It's not an easy thing to be in the water underground for a long time, underwater for a long time. But that wasn't something that stood out in the Lord's mind when he came in front of the Prachetas. He said, I'm very pleased with you, and I give you my mercy, my blessings, because you have lived together in a very friendly spirit. So you have cooperated. So for us, this is one important way to please Krishna, because Krishna is pleased by seeing the devotees working together in that friendly spirit of cooperation. Cooperation can be at many levels. Cooperation can be in the mode of ignorance, when it is driven by negative emotions like fear and so on. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that one works in this world for different reasons and driven by different motivations. At the lowest level, one is driven by fear and one works accordingly. A little higher than that, one is driven by greed for reward and one works for that. A little higher than that, one works out of a sense of duty. And the highest of all is when one works out of a sense of love. So, the first stage is cooperation in the mode of ignorance, when we cooperate with others based on the principle of fear. For example, in the Ramayana, we hear the pastime of the story of Maricha, who was an asura, who had been severely chastised by Lord Ram, and having learnt a lesson, he had gone away to perform austerities in the forest, and Ravana traced him out and asked him to use his mystic powers so that Ravana could kidnap Sita Devi and take her away. And Maricha was aghast at such a proposal. And he said, I will certainly it will be a very wrong thing to do, because Ram is extremely powerful. And so Ravana said, well, you have two choices. Possible death at the hands of Lord Ram, or certain death at my hands. So you choose the option. So then Maricha chose naturally the option, because he thought, I have to die anyway, so why to die at the hands of someone like Ravana? Better to die at the hands of Lord Ram. So then he went ahead and he took the form of a deer, and Sita Devi was attracted. So Maricha was cooperating with Ram, but such cooperation was based on fear. When we have cooperation based on other qualities like greed and envy, also we see similar situations. Cooperation on the basis of greed will not sustain or endure. Let's say there are some thieves who jointly steal, and then they come back and fight over the distribution of the spoils. Inevitably it will happen. There is also the anecdote about the crabs in a basket. There are some people whose livelihood it is to collect these crabs from the sea, and then they take it to the marketplace to sell. Now usually the prey that are thus captured are kept in a closed box which has cages and so on, so the animals or the fish and so on can't escape. But in this case, there is no need to keep any covering. You can just carry an open basket with a few crabs, and you needn't worry about what will happen to those crabs. Because the moment any one crab tries to crawl out of the bag or the basket, the others will ensure that he is not successful. They will pull him down. And then the second one tries to seek out an opportunity when the others are inattentive and quickly tries to scurry out from the basket. But the others were only actually pretending to sleep. And then they just pull him down. In this way, no one succeeds, because everyone doesn't want the other to succeed. And they don't realize that they can all simply crawl out and they'll all be free. But they would rather see failure for themselves than success for the other. So cooperation, they cooperate negatively to keep each other down. So that's one type of cooperation also. So the earlier one that I mentioned, cooperation in the mode out of fear, is cooperation in the mode of ignorance. And here we have also cooperation in the modes of passion and ignorance. Higher than that is cooperation in the mode of goodness, which is cooperation out of a sense of duty. And we say, well, this is my duty to do this, and we must all be chaste to our responsibility. We have taken this responsibility, and therefore I will do it because it is my dharma. To be truthful, to be honest, to be responsible, to be sincere in whatever I do. So that kind of thing sustains because it is in the mode of goodness. Only the mode of goodness sustains in this world. Nothing else does. The modes of ignorance and passion cannot sustain. So when one works on this platform, then one is truly said to be a human being. And then the highest is, of course, cooperation on the basis of love. And that is what this movement, this Krishna consciousness movement, is all about. Because Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. In this Krishna consciousness movement, we all cooperate with each other out of love for Krishna. That is our motivation for cooperation. And therefore, it potentially can be the strongest. It doesn't compare with the levels of cooperation that can be attained by other means. So this is something that we can keep in mind. Yes, we are here because of love. All devotees come to this movement and they want to love Krishna. So there's a common focal point. And if we keep focused on that focal point of Krishna and loving Krishna, then it will be easy to cooperate. Otherwise, it becomes very hard. And cooperating on the basis of love, of course, would mean that we have to take pains. Because what is love without sacrifice? What is love without taking some trouble to please someone whom one loves? So when we work for Krishna's pleasure, out of love for him and love for the devotees, then that cooperation becomes very healthy, sublime, and it then brings everyone up to such a wonderfully high level of consciousness. Then everything becomes so easy. Administration becomes easy, devotional programs become easy, just life becomes so easy as it can in the material world. So somehow or other we are very fortunate that we have come to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. And our cooperation on this basis, centered around chanting of the holy names, hearing about Krishna, performing devotional service with our body, mind and words, is the formula for successful cooperation. There is no other way. The Prachetas didn't live in Kali Yuga, and still the Lord was pleased with them because they cooperated with each other. That wasn't the age of quarrel they were living in. So just imagine that if we cooperate out of love in Kali Yuga, how much more will Krishna be pleased? And how much more we will all be able to advance and help each other to advance in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.